responding code 3.
Police arrived at Reynolds High School within 2 minutes of the shooting. SWAT teams moved in as students filed out with their hands in the air, including Tate Blaylock.
Everyone was freaking out, and we all ran into the weight room hallway, and we just hid and locked all the doors. And there was just a bunch of gunshots everywhere.
I just heard a bloody scream, people screaming, running everywhere.
Gunfire sparks terror on a quiet campus.
That's a hard one to swallow, that a fellow student that it could have been you.
But in the midst of tragedy, stories of heroism at Seattle Pacific University.
A lot more people would be not here if he hadn't done that.
It was a deadly shooting that could have been worse if not for one student's actions.
He stopped him in the lobby. He didn't get any farther than that.
Their sense of security shattered. Tonight, those on campus are trying to make sense out of the senseless and wonder why someone would turn their school into a crime scene.
Just the devastation of loss today. It's just overwhelming.
It can no longer be ignored nor sloughed under the table for future considerations. 74 people, mostly children, gunned down at schools across the nation since the tragedy at Newtown. Gun violence is no longer just a political element, it is real. It is more in our face as Americans than ever before. And what is happening in this country is, to many, one of the greater national disgraces we have experienced in decades. So where do we go from here? Let's welcome into Midpoint the host of Put It on Target radio and TV shows, the man known as the Shooting Whisperer. Dan Meadows joins us today on Midpoint. Dan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today. Looking forward to talking with you today.
Dan, let's go ahead and ask the question first up. And I need to get your reaction, first of all, to the fact that 74, and as I pointed out, this number has been talked about by a lot of people. Let's specifically look at schools. 74 killings at schools since Newtown. What is your first initial take on that number and what that means?
You know, any loss of life is very tragic. It's tragic both for the communities, for the families, even for the families of those who are known as the shooters or the active shooters in this case. You know, it is an absolute tragedy that has taken place. Killings of people not only in schools, but other places have taken part of our history for many, many years.
Let's stay on the school killings right now, because this is the thing that has the nation talking so much. Because you are a fervent supporter of the Second Amendment, as so many other people are. There are people who would then ask you, as that supporter, they would look right at you and say, all right, we don't want to take away the Second Amendment, but we need answers. What would be your answers then into how we at least try to stop this madness?
You know, you have people who talk about taking away or don't want to take away certain aspects of the Second Amendment, will, you know, or say that we support it. Yet what portion of it is it that they support? In respect to that, I was a law enforcement officer for many years. I've trained law enforcement officers. I've gone into active armed conflicts, shooter conflicts in my history. I go into it with the thoughts of trying to protect everyone. I've been a protectionist for years. I've been a survivalist for years. I've been a sheepdog, as many law enforcement agents would talk about. In order to curb a great portion of this is, you know, what are parents doing to try to protect their kids from getting a hold of firearms that they may have in their home? What are you know, putting good guys with guns in a school environment? Why is that not being addressed?
Okay, so let me stop you. I want to come back and take this a little bit point by point, because you talked about parents protecting their kids. Okay, so what you're talking about is legal gun owners who have the guns, the kids remove them from the home, then take them into a setting such as a school. Doesn't that now speak to responsibility? And are we then, if I'm following you, saying that we're talking about irresponsible adults who are legal gun owners who are not doing everything they can to make sure that a weapon is out of the hands of a minor?
Not every gun owner is irresponsible.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say not every gun owner is irresponsible. But in the case of those that are allowing the children, and we have the kids who take the guns out of cabinets or drawers, are we not then saying that these are the gun owners / parents who are irresponsible?
Whether they're parents, whether they're aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever, yes, that is irresponsible on their part. When I and many other professional firearms instructors go out and teach classes, we talk about locking down the guns, making them safe and secure, putting them up where a little, 2-month or toddler child can't crawl under the bed or take it off a dresser or something like that. That is absolute, in my opinion, irresponsibility on the adult's part. In respect to, they might be a gun owner, but are they taking reasonable steps to ensure that that firearm is safe, not only for, let's say, kids, but for others who shouldn't be getting a hold of their firearms as well?
Okay, now there are those people who would say, and again, let's look at both sides of this. They're going to say, well, they're legal. They can buy the guns. They are allowed to do that. So what do we do then? Seriously, we have these parents. This is happening all too often then, where we have kids that are taking these guns out of their parents' homes. How do we stop that? Or is it simply just saying we can't at this point? There's really no mechanism to do that.
In respect to parents who have had troubled children in their families, and there's been several shootings here of late where there were children who have had mental or psychotic conditions that would be questionable. Absolutely, taking maybe even removing the gun from their home if they feel that that is necessary to do to try to prevent that child, a juvenile, teenager, whomever, of taking the potential of taking that gun to a school.
Okay, now we're going a little bit deeper now because you mentioned the phrase troubled children. So then let's take this a step further. Okay. You would then have, and please follow me, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. You would then have parents that understand that they have troubled children or a troubled individual in their home, and they still have guns in their home. There are those who would then fire back and say that that individual, that parent, that aunt, that uncle, whatever it is, they should not be allowed to own a weapon at that point if there is the possibility of getting it in the hands of a disturbed individual. And then the next thing, how do we then find that out? How do the authorities find that out? Let's start with the first one, that they shouldn't have a gun in the first place if they have someone in the house who might snap.
I don't necessarily agree with that statement as it's being displayed. What I do agree with is the fact that they need to take further or even elevated responsibility in trying to ensure that that child, whether it's placed in a safe, locked down, keys put away, whatever, condition as to where that person can't render that particular firearm in an operable condition. Locking down ammunition in a strategic other place, other location from the firearm, and giving access to that particular gun and or ammunition.
Okay, here comes another side of this, and we're trying to hit as many as we can here.
Absolutely.
But I've been in this discussion with many people before. They say that if you are a responsible adult, you are or an individual who is allowed legally to own a gun, you have the gun in your home, someone in your home removes that gun from your home, commits a crime, God forbid we're talking about murder here in all these cases, that the individual who is the gun owner themselves needs to be held legally responsible. And these are people, though, if you go to court and if there are arrests, they need to be the ones arrested because they are part of the problem. Answer that, please.
If the condition of the gun was rendered, if it was laid on a table and it makes it easy access, that's one thing. If it was rendered in a condition where it was inaccessible to that particular person or persons, then they've taken extra steps to ensure that something like that doesn't happen.
But apparently somebody did get a hold of it then. I understand what you're saying about if it's rendered inaccessible in a drawer, but still if you have, and we've seen this case before, where these young people have gone in, they have opened the drawers here, they have gotten the gun. There are people saying still, it makes no difference. The person who is the owner of the gun, who put it in the home, who made it accessible, is the one who needs to be held legally, morally responsible.
Each and every case is a step-by-step self-consideration of what needs to be done. If there is the propensity of something like that taking place, what other steps did the adult take, aside from maybe locking down their guns? What other steps did they take in getting this children, adult, whoever that was in their home that had access to the gun, some other type of help, mental health in many cases, in relation to the propensity of something like that happening? What about You know, people who talk about like this incident that took place here recently, where the 2 officers were slain and the Mr. Wilcox in Walmart was slain. You know, neighbors seemed to know something about what was going on with these particular individuals. Other people knew what was going on with these individuals. What did those people do to try to keep something from that, like that, from happening? Where does it come about where, you know, it's not necessarily the method of delivery.
5 seconds, Dan. 5 seconds.
Okay.
Finish your comment, please.
A gun or anything is in the home. What about the person themselves? Why do we blame everything else but the person themselves?
Okay, Dan, you speak very eloquently about this, and I know we're going to have this conversation again. It is not going to go away. I thank you so much for your comments. We'll do it again.
God bless. Stay safe.
Dan, thank you very much. By the way, social media, if you want to chime in on exactly what we're talking about here on Midpoint, it's very easy. You can get a hold of us. Here it is. There's our Twitter handle. There it is at email. There it is on Facebook. Midpoint. We question everything. We'll be right back.